let's talk about electricity. So I have here in my hand two blow dryers. The Qi Nano, which in previous videos I tested the temperature and speed, and the Twin Turbo 3200. This one is loud, it's hot, it moves a lot of air. I've been using it for over 10 years and I've never melted anyone's hair off with it. But there's this cool thing about how each of these are wired. And this is something that I had heard. I heard dryers like this have a colder cool shot than dryers like this. And I want to use my thermometer to test that out and see if that's actually a fact. So I've got a little white wall over here that I'm gonna blow my cold air on and see if I can measure the temperature of that surface and see if I can find a discernible difference between how cold this air gets and how cold this air gets. After we test it, I'll tell you where the myth comes from, if it's a myth, or why it is that one might get colder than the other. I already know that this dryer gets hotter than this one. So let's test the cold air first. Turning my temperature all the way down. It's just blowing right at the surface. In feeling it with my hand, I can feel that it's notably warm. It doesn't feel cold or like air from a fan blowing. And I measured it at a max of 95.7 degrees. And now I'm going to test the Twin Turbo and see if it gets cooler. 86.5. Definitely mid 80s rather than the 90s. That's kind of cool. So the myth is actually true. This dryer actually blows colder air when doing the cool shot than this one. Why is that? Let me tell you why. It has to do with the way that they're wired. This big heavy dryer has a motor inside that takes alternating current, which means the electricity coming from my house, from my walls, goes straight into the motor and is able to propel a fan that's a little bit more powerful than the other one. This Qi is what would be classified as like an ultralight dryer. It's very light. It doesn't weigh nearly as much as the Twin Turbo. Not surprising that it blows a little bit less air, less intensely than the big heavy one. The reason this dryer is able to be light is because it uses a direct current motor. So in a DC motor, it's the kind of motor that you'd find in, say, a radio controlled car. It's an electric motor. You hook up a battery to it. The little motor spins. It has one of those inside here, a very powerful one. But the power moving through this cable is alternating current. As part of the conversion process of changing the alternating current into direct current and keeping the system compact, the electricity runs through the heat coils inside the dryer first. So it runs through those heat coils and then into the motor. Whether I have hot air or cold air turned on this, there's always electricity running through these coils, which means that those coils are always going to be slightly warm because there's current being pushed through them, as opposed to the big heavy dryer. This dryer is significantly heavier than that one. So this dryer, though it's significantly heavier, uses an alternating current motor, which means it's got a more powerful motor, making this more heavy, but the current is able to flow from the cable, from the house electricity, directly into the motor, and then through the coils. And the coils are ran on a separate circuit, which means when I turn the cold air on this dryer, it cuts the power to those coils completely, and just the movement of air across them cools them down, and they're going to be just that little bit much more cooler than the coils that always have power running through them. So my test today was to see if it's true that a DC motor dryer blows a warmer cool shot than an alternating current motor dryer. The answer is absolutely yes. The ultralight dryers don't get as cold or hot as the beefy heavy ones, which get hotter and colder. It's kind of cool. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.